colleagues, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to be invited to this important conference. It's an honor for me to be with you. At the moment, I'm in a hotel in eastern Germany, and unfortunately, the internet connection has broken down. So I'm giving this lecture via my smartphone, and there might be some technical problems. I'm very sorry about that. I hope you can understand me. Mr. Lee, maybe you can give me a sign whether you can understand me.
Yeah.
Yeah, sehr deutlich, kein Problem.
Very good. Thank you very much. So the topic I was given is the new European AI Act. Now, next slide, please. What is the European approach to excellence in AI? And the aim of Europe was proclaimed 10 years ago, is to foster excellence in AI in order to strengthen Europe's potential to compete globally. And the EU wants to achieve this by enabling the development and uptake of AI in the EU, by making the EU a place where AI thrives. The problem is from the lab to the market. They want to do this by ensuring that AI works for people. AI should not work only for government. AI should not work only for big business. It should work for people, for the citizens. And Europe wants to build strategic leadership in high-impact sectors. So that's a general European approach to excellence in AI that was proclaimed more or less 10 years ago. And what about the background? In the proposal for an AI Act, which was published in 2021, 3 years ago, they say that artificial intelligence is seen as a fast evolving family of technologies that can bring a wide area of economic and societal benefits across the entire spectrum of industries and social activities. By improving prediction, optimizing operations and resource allocation, and by personalizing service delivery, the use of artificial intelligence can support socially and environmentally beneficial outcomes and provide key competitive advantages to companies and the European economy. Such action is especially needed in high-impact sectors, including climate change, environment and health, the public sector, finance, mobility, home affairs, and agriculture. So these are the main areas where Europe wants to compete in AI. And the quotation goes on. However, the same elements, the techniques that power the socio-economic benefits of AI can also bring about new risks or negative consequences for individuals or the society. End of quotation. So this is the reason why there is a regulation, right? Where Europe has started this process of regulating AI. Next slide, please. What are the specific objectives of the AI regulation of Europe? They want to ensure that AI systems placed on the union market and used are safe and they respect existing law. Safe and respect to existing law, especially existing law on fundamental rights and union values. In addition, there must be legal certainty to facilitate investment and innovation in AI. In addition, they want to enhance governance and effective enforcement of existing law on fundamental rights and effective requirements applicable to AI systems. And, fourth and last, they want to facilitate the development of a single market. That's always a big aim in Europe, a single market for lawful, safe, and trustworthy AI applications, and they want to prevent market fragmentation. So these were the objectives of the European regulation. And in order to achieve these aims, they set up a high-level expert group on AI in the year 2018. I was a member of that group, one of 4 German experts. There were experts from Spain, from Italy, from England also. I was the only one from Germany with a legal background. The others were entrepreneurs or people from informatics. And this expert group met in Brussels for 2 years, from 2018 to 2020, until Corona forced us to stop our meetings, and we had some meetings online, but this was not very successful. So the group came to an end in 2020. Nevertheless, we were able to publish a number of quite influential papers. Maybe the most important are the ethics guidelines for trustworthy AI, published in April 2019. It's online, this paper is online, you can look it up if you want to. And already, right after the publication of this paper, the Commission supported our findings. They supported the key requirements set out in our paper, and the process went on. Next slide, please. By forming an AI alliance, a platform with approximately 4,000 stakeholders who debated the technological and societal implications of AI, included discriminated in the yearly AI assembly. And from all of these discussions and intellectual work and academic analysis, there came an EU white paper. This EU white paper is the direct basis of the new AI Act. This paper is formulated in legal language. It's a legal analysis, over 400 pages, quite complicated. If you want, you can look it up under the address I put down here on this slide. So next slide, please. In July 2024, the European AI Act was published, and most parts of it are in force right now. It's a long and very complicated regulation. Those who were members of the high-level group are not always happy with this regulation, but on the whole, I think it's okay. And now we will look at some specifications. We don't have time to go into details. And my famous colleagues who will speak after me will analyze some special parts. If you wanted to go into all the details, one day would not suffice. So next slide. Here you see the general approach. The general approach is a risk-based approach. So the AI Act attempts to regulate AI by formulating and defining 4 categories of risk. We did not try to solve the AI problems with one regulation that fits for all. So we have not one fits for all regulation, but a regulation that is relative in its enforcement to specific AI risk levels. The first level is the level of unacceptable risk. Unacceptable risk will not be allowed within Europe. Then the next level is high risk. High risk is allowed within Europe, but it's heavily regulated. And then there are 2 more levels, low risk and minimal risk. And these areas are allowed, and they are regulated only a little bit. When it comes to minimal risk, there are only some, let's say, transparency obligations, and that's all. So that's a risk-based approach. I think that's the core of the European approach, and in order to understand the European approach, you have to understand this risk-oriented regulation. So what is forbidden? What is seen as absolutely unacceptable? It's not allowed within Europe. Absolutely unacceptable are all AI systems that are considered a clear threat to the safety, livelihoods, and rights of European people. And there are mainly 3 types of technology that are prohibited. Techniques that exploit vulnerabilities of specific vulnerable groups, such as children and persons with disabilities, for example, mentally ill people or very old people. And we want to make it impossible that those people are object of technologies that distort their behavior in a manner that is likely to cause them or another person psychological or physical harm. So the first group of AI systems that is forbidden is the group of AI systems that will try to manipulate children, elderly people, and other members of vulnerable groups. The second big group of AI systems that are not allowed are AI systems that are placed on social scoring. I see that we have gone too far with the slides. Please go back one more slide. We are still on the former slide. AI-based social scoring for general purposes done by public authorities. So social scoring means analysis of the behavior of the whole society, and then bringing these people in a kind of list, yeah, and then evaluating the behavior of these people. The big problem of such an approach is that in order to have a general social scoring, you have an absolute surveillance of everything society does. Yeah? There is no data privacy in such a system. Social scoring on a general perspective means the abolition of privacy. And that's the main reason why AI-based social scoring for general purpose is not allowed. Of course, there is the possibility of social scoring for specific purposes, for example, in the area of debt and the payment of debt. In Germany, we have the Schufa. That's the classical system of this. So specific systems are okay, but not general systems. And the third group of totally forbidden risk is the group of biometric identification. First of all, face recognition with means of AI. Again, data privacy is a big issue here, and only in specific areas connected to crime and crime control, there can be limited exceptions. So these are the groups of unacceptable risk. Of course, this is the expression of a specific culture, maybe European culture, maybe even German culture. Yeah? In other areas of the world, you can see these groups as not so problematic. Nevertheless, that was what the Europeans said should be absolutely forbidden. Now, next slide, please. What is important, of course, is now what is high risk. High risk systems are allowed, but they are heavily controlled. And these, the areas I mentioned now are considered high risk. Critical infrastructures, for example, transport. So the use of AI in critical infrastructures is allowed, it's okay, but there's a lot of control, there's a lot of regulation. Educational and vocational training, safety components of products, employment, workers' management, access to self-employment, essential private and public services, law enforcement that may interfere with people's fundamental rights, migration, asylum and border control management, administration of justice and democratic processes. These areas are considered high risk. If you use AI in these areas, it's okay, it's allowed, but there will be a lot of control. What exactly this means, we'll talk about in a few minutes. Now let's finish the overview over the risk areas with a short look at the areas of limited risk and minimal risk. Limited risk, where limited risk is seen, there are AI systems, they have only specific transparency obligations. When using AI systems such as chatbots, users should be aware that they are interacting with a machine so they can take an informed decision to continue or step back. So if you phone someone and someone is talking to you with a nice voice, you should be warned it's a computer. And it generates a nice voice, it's not the real human being. So this is quite important in order not to be unaware of the identity of the entity you are talking to. And then there's the level of minimal risk, where the minimal risk level is given. It's possible to use the applications freely. For example, video games, stamp filters. According to the EU authorities, the vast majority of AI systems currently used in the EU falls into this category. They are said to represent minimal or no risk. I'm not quite sure whether that's okay, but that was the idea of the Commission, that most AI systems currently used in the EU falls under the category of minimal risk. So, from an economic perspective, very important is the question, what is the regulation of high-risk systems? So we have the totally forbidden systems, we have the systems that are more or less free to use, but in between there's this area of high-risk systems, and that's problematic. And what are the obligations for those who use and those who import high-risk systems? These people will be subject to strict obligations, and you can only put the systems on the market when specific regulations are met. There must be adequate risk assessment and mitigation systems. There must be a high quality of data sets feeding the system to minimize risks and discriminatory outcomes. All activity must be logged to ensure traceability of results. There must be a detailed documentation providing all information necessary on the system and its purpose for authorities to assess its compliance. There must be clear and adequate information to the user, so the user must know how to deal with these systems. There must be appropriate human oversight measures to minimize risk. There must always be a human being in the loop, able to control the system, and the system must have a high level of robustness, security, and accuracy. That must be technically robust. And these ideas are put into a variety of articles in the system, and for all people who want to do economic activity, show economic activity within Europe, this list is very important. So now next slide, procedural questions. So I think it's simple to understand. If there's a high-risk AI system developed somewhere in the world, for example in Taiwan, and the system should go to the European market. People want to sell the system in Spain or in Germany or in Italy. Then, first of all, the system needs to undergo a conformity assessment, and it must comply with the AI requirements set down in the AI Act. Second step, if everything is okay, the system will be registered in a specific EU database that is at this moment set up. And in addition, there will be a declaration of conformity conformity that needs to be signed, and the AI system must bear the CE marking. And then the system can be placed on the market. This is very similar to all the product safety requirements. That is kind of traditional approach. And then the system is placed on the market, and if substantial changes happen in the AI system's life cycle, for example, when it's improved or it's a self-learning system and it improves itself, then we go back to step 1, to step 2, and again there must be a conformity assessment. That's the basic idea. So now, next slide, and I'm coming to an end already. New challenges are posed by ChatGPT and other large language models. Our moderator already talked about that. It's a difficult question. In our high-level group, we did not think about ChatGPT. ChatGPT popped up in November 2022 and was not part of the analysis in the high-level group. Nevertheless, it's clear that ChatGPT is similar to a high-risk system, and therefore, in the new AI Act, the ChatGPT and other large language models were regulated in a way similar to high-risk systems. This new regulation entered into force in August 2024, so it's quite new. At the moment, a lot of commentaries and analysis are published, and we'll see how the academic field takes up this new approach. Over the next years, new standards and government structures should partly be developed. Next and last slide. My evaluation, that's only my personal evaluation, with regard to the AI Act, is it's a powerful attempt to regulate AI. It's worldwide the first attempt to regulate AI on a general level, and it's a powerful approach. In its core, there is this risk-based approach. The risk-based approach sits at the core of the AI regulation. One of the big problems is the need for clarification. What exactly is the borderline between low-risk and high-risk systems, and who is allowed to define the difference? For business people, that's the main question. Is my system high risk and there's a lot of regulation, or is it low risk and there's no regulation? And so far, this is not absolutely clear. I believe other legislators, for example, legislators in Taiwan or in the USA, they can get valuable insights into problems and challenges of AI regulation. So it's a good idea to look at this regulation. At the moment, however, at least to my mind, there's no good reason, and it does not seem advisable to copy the European approach. It's better to wait until we have some experiences with this new approach, and then other countries can either follow the European example or do something else. To copy the AI Act at the moment seems to me not advisable. It's different from the data protection regulation that was copied in many parts of the world. Maybe that was a good idea. With regard to the AI Act, I believe a bit of skepticism would be a good idea. So it's better to wait for more experience. So that was my very short overview. Thank you for your attention.